Welcome back to another video of airbrushing. We're going to get started on this panel. If you haven't watched the last panel, how I prepped this to get this ready to airbrush, go back and watch it before you watch this one. The only thing I've done off camera is I've actually sprayed. This is another trick for doing to try to get rid of pencil lines. I haven't done it yet as a video, but this will be my first time showing you guys how I kind of get rid of pencil lines without getting rid of pencil lines, if that makes sense. So as you're airbrushing, especially on lighter panels, when you're doing a lighter color, it's really hard. Actually, the pencil lines will not go away. They'll just keep bleeding through until you get enough paint on there and just covers it. Well, this is going to be a monochromatic, all done in blue. So it's going to be really light, and there's going to be very few areas that are really dark. So what I did is I took some Transneb from House of Color, and I reduced it, and I sprayed a couple coats over the entire panel before I started this video. Let it dry for a few minutes, and what that does is Transneb, for one, is like it's a clear base coat is what it is. It's a wet bed. If you guys are painters, you guys will know that term. And that's all it is. It's replacing SG100 from the House of Color line with the candies. It's a wet bed, and what it does is, being a clear base coat, it's like you put paint on it that is transparent. So it's just something that will block down the pencil lines and everything underneath of it. That way, when I go through and I put paint on it, it will actually cover those lines up. And you'll see throughout this video and out the other videos that once we start getting color on this panel, it'll start taking those pencil lines away. And that's just because it's pretty much sealed everything below. And that's why I put that wet bed on here. And it's a little bit of a trick if you're airbrushing to get rid of pencil lines, chalk lines, anything that's on the surface that you're trying to hide. Throw a little bit, like you can even use Intercoat Clear. Throw a little bit of that down, and then you're good to go. So we're going to get the painting on this, some color already. I'm going to show you guys what we were working with for the first color, and it's just a light blue. It's almost purpley color, and that's the only thing we're using is this blue right here. This blue is a lapis blue from House of Color. Now I used mostly white, reduced it, and put a couple drops in this to start with. That way when we start building this up, you can start getting layers and layers and layers in there without actually erasing all the details. So we're going to get started on this, and stay tuned. Alright, so we're at a good stopping point for this right here. It's getting kind of late, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. I'm going to show you guys where we... So, this started mapping everything in. It's a little bit darker blue than what I wanted to start with, but that's fine because when we go in with the darker blues, this is going to be really light against everything else. And then it's in that kind of that middle shade to where we can actually dilute this to go a little bit lighter and do all the shading in the face and things like that. I did a little bit in the skin, some in the skull, some in the hands, some in the flower, and I'll do that throughout the whole thing. And then we'll either go darker and fill in the really dark spots, or we'll go lighter and start doing all the shading and everything. So this one should be done pretty quickly, but you never know. I think I'm gonna get decent time on it, so hopefully we get this thing done in the next couple of videos. But thanks for watching. I don't know if this will be the end of this video, if I'm going to add until I get the whole thing done. So I guess you guys will see when I'm getting done with the video. See ya. Alright, so I'm adding this in at the very last of the video. You just saw the picture of it all being mapped out. This is a pretty light blue, even though it looks really dark on this white. It's because it is against white, so it's going to look a little bit darker, but this is how dark this blue is going to get. It's going to get pretty dark, so it's a really dark blue. So I'm going to start pumping up on the next video. I'm going to start pumping in that darker blue in the really black areas, because we're not going to be using any black on this. It's all going to be just blue. So that dark blue is going to replace anything that's black. So the next video I'm going to start with having all that black in there, and it's going to make everything else set back and the darkest darks kind of punch out more, and all that lighter airbrush work that you don't really see right now, it's going to start jumping out at you. So what I'm talking about is like these areas right here in the skull eye and behind her hair and all this other stuff in the skull. Those are going to be really dark darks. Like in this photo, all of these are going to be dark blues. and that's going to really make anything that's really white jump out. You can kind of see in her face what I kind of shaded it and things like that. And most of the pencil markings will go away in this area because we're all going to put in a really dark color over everything. Same way with the rose and our hands and everything else. We're going to add that dark blue through the whole thing. And you're really going to see it change without even doing pretty much anything. Because right now everything's really roughed in. So it's just doing those layers, going back and forth, pushing and pulling it, and you'll eventually get there. But this is the way it looks at the end of the first video. It's looking really good, even though it does look pretty plain. You know, a lot of people probably just clear this thing and be good with it, but we're going to start punching this thing out to make it look really real. That way you can go to this auction and pull in some money. But other than that, yep, pretty much it for the video. So thanks for tuning in. The next video should be coming out pretty quick. I'm trying to do these videos like a day apart from each other. That way you guys can see this thing really come together. Right now I've got about probably 2.5 hours into it. I was like an hour and a little over an hour just prepping it ready for paint. And then I've got about an hour and a half just mapping it out right now. So should be about 5-6 hours in this total thing to get it done. So it's not too bad, but we're going to pump this one out pretty quick. So I'm trying to get these videos constantly coming out every other day or every day. That way you guys can see it pretty quickly going together rather than just shoving everything in one video, because you guys can actually see the layering process of what it takes to get some of this stuff to where it looks the way it does, you know, the way I'm trying to get it to look. So like I said, thanks for watching and stay tuned to the next one.